A wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like this wise old bird? Hey guys, Austin here. Today we are reading this book right here, which is Titan, the Life of John D. Rockefeller. And excited to be going through this one with you. If you don't know who John Rockefeller is, he is the founder of Standard Oil and really created one of the first monopolies on an industry and completely dominated the oil industry. I'm going to go through a couple of notes about him. There's a few key takeaways that I think are of utmost importance, and I'm excited to talk about them with you, but thought I might give you just a little bit of a background on who he is first. So he's the founder of Standard Oil, dominating the oil industry. He was born in 1839 with a net worth over $1 billion, which in today's dollars, that would equivalent to $24 billion. He's a pioneer in vertical integration and monopolistic practices. He is a philanthropist, and he donated over $500 million. He created the University of Chicago and Rockefeller Foundation. And here's one of the interesting ones that I wanted to include in, kind of about him. He loaned $10 million to the U.S. government during the Panic of 1907, which is equivalent to about $280 million today. So you might hear people talk about John Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and then J.P. Morgan, and maybe a few others as well, and they'll kind of refer to them as the men who financed America or something along those lines. And I'm pretty sure that kind of comes back to this Panic of 1907. Apparently, a bunch of companies, like the way that the markets were going and stuff, a bunch of banks had to close, and it's like a bunch of bad notes took place. And basically, these guys, I know for sure, Rockefeller, and I know for sure J.P. Morgan, and I'm pretty sure as well with Carnegie, loaned the U.S. government money to keep them alive, basically. So I thought that was interesting. I do have a point on that we'll talk about here in a minute. But when we're looking at public figures like this, like obviously there is no infallible human. I'm not perfect. You're probably not perfect. But regardless of that, we can always learn stuff from people. Just learn the good things. Abraham Lincoln said, I can learn something from every man. Most of the time, it's just what not to do. So there's always lessons to be learned. And this is somebody who, created a crazy amount of wealth, obviously, but also did bring a lot of value, really kind of brought the oil industry up, which helped the U.S. economy, brought a lot of jobs. You'll see that it wasn't really a smooth ride per se, but, there is still some good with it, right? So we're talking about that. But one of the things that I think makes a lot of sense when we're talking about these public figures that have, kind of accomplished a lot with their lives is not necessarily to look at the tactics that they used in order to accomplish those things, but instead the character traits, right? Because, and kind of the habits, because if we, reference any book that talks about the power of habits, right? Whether it's from Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, whether it's from James Clear in Atomic Habits, or just about anyone else, habits are really what lead us to the life that we want. If there's a goal that we want, then what we need to do is we just need to set up some habits and some systems and let them run for long enough in order to get there. Now, obviously, things are going to happen a lot of times. Like, you're going to have to get lucky. A random door is going to have to open up in order for something to happen. But that stuff just has a way of figuring itself out. We can't really predict when that stuff happens. But if we focus really hard on having great character traits and the right habits and having those there, then the doors will open. We just don't get to pick when that is, unfortunately, but they will open. So that's what we're going to do right now is I'm going to talk about some of the character traits and habits that he had. So the first one is incredible work ethic. John is known for his diligent work habits and meticulous attention to detail. When, reading through the book and kind of hearing about his life, I mean, he wasn't really, too much of a wild card. He was pretty reserved. He was pretty quiet. He loved to go to church. That'll be kind of one of these upcoming points. And he was very detailed, and, just not much would slip past this guy. He was very observant, and, which is an important thing to have. And it's actually been proven in studies that people that end up living successful and happy lives, they're very observant about their surroundings. And he was very, very observant. I'll read through a few more of these, and then I'll kind of add a few additional notes on kind of my take as I was reading the book. Frugality. Despite his immense wealth, Rockefeller was famously frugal, often saving and reinvesting his earnings. There is one caveat on that. I think he was spending like $500K per year, which was a fortune. Especially it's a fortune today, but he's spending $500K on his golfing. He had this private golfing setup where he lived, and he even golfed in the snow. There were there were other big names, and he said, "Come on out and let's golf." And they were like, "It's snowing, we're not going out there." They didn't have like any like snow blowers or anything like that back then, and so what little did, when they got there, I can't remember who it was, but when they got there, they they look out there, and John has some of his people with horses, and they are dragging through the snow and clearing it. They had like kind of made like a snowplow type thing. And so, yes, he was very frugal though, but later on in his life, there were a few things, and that's pretty typical with people that have succeeded with him. Warren Buffett, crazy frugal, but he flies a lot, and he for a long time he flew a private jet. Then he switched to net jets, which is kind of like a ride share type thing for private airplanes. And I don't know exactly what he does today, but you'll kind of see that as a thing among people that have accomplished a lot, in specifically, I guess, kind of in the business side of things. Religious devotion, deeply religious, and attended church regularly, influencing his business and ethics and philanthropy. So he was a Baptist, and in the book, he was very, very devout, very serious, and kind of just, from what I could see, it seemed like he stayed at kind of the same church that he had grown up there, because he kind of knew everybody. And so he didn't go to a bigger, fancier church or anything. He kind of liked to be private. And so he kind of liked his small church that he went to, and he was very serious about going and having his family go as well. Strategic thinking, known for strategic planning and long-term vision in business. He was, because he was very reserved, he would literally, for a lot of his career, he would kind of be like retired and in the back scene of things. And because of that, he would have a lot of time to be able to not be the forward-facing, front-facing person in his company, which allowed him to spend a lot of time thinking and strategizing, and kind of planning out what his next set of moves were going to be. Philanthropy, major, did a lot of it, focusing on education, health, and scientific research. Secretive nature, often operated behind the scenes and kept his personal life private. Wasn't really a flashy person, and he didn't really admire people who were flashy. I think it was J.P. Morgan and him did not get along, or it might have been some other person like that, but they didn't get along because, if it was J.P. Morgan, I'm pretty sure it was, but if it was J.P. Morgan, he was very flashy and outwardly showing his wealth, and John Rockefeller just was not like that. And so they didn't really like each other for a while. They ended up having to do some business together, or they did some business together, but, there was kind of a clash there. calm and composed. He maintained a calm demeanor even in stressful situations. So he was very quiet, and even when things were hard or, a bad situation was happening, he was able to keep his calm the entire time. And he was, rarely ever seen yelling or vocalizing, his anger and frustration. And, running the business that he did, there were a lot of things to be frustrated and angry with. I mean, as you can imagine, running one of the biggest company in the world, or one of the biggest companies in the world, obviously that's going to come with a lot of headaches, right? And then health conscious, paid close attention to his health with a strict diet and exercise routine. If I recall correctly from the book, this happened a little bit later in his life where he got very serious. That was actually why he did so much golfing, is because golfing got him out there. He was active. He enjoyed the game itself. And so he spent a lot of time doing that as part of his health stuff. Okay, so here are a few. So those are some of the kind of like habits, character traits of him. And, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of craziness there, right? He had great work ethic. That's just like all successful people. He was very frugal, very common, right? That's why we've been talking in some of the past videos about you better know your numbers. That's what Tillman Fertitta says. You better know your numbers. And, frugality kind of plays into that. And basically it's having full control and full insight over how the finances are going. And then also having the self-control to go alongside with that in order to not spend when you want to. And this is so much easier said than done, especially in the US. We have, Amazon is just one click away. We can get about anything we want. But, and trust me, I'm just as guilty of this as the next person. But if we're not careful, we don't work on our self-control, we can waste a lot of our money. And so, it's good for us to practice, by the way. It's good for us to practice, to just not get what we want right when we want it. It's good for us to, hold ourselves back, right, and practice that. He was religious, very common in successful people. It's actually been proven that, religion is very good for society. And one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons, and we won't really go too far into it, but, being, devout, if you're a Christian, you go to church, does that mean that you're going to be a perfect person or that you don't sin? Absolutely not. But if you go to church on a regular basis and you take it seriously, it kind of gives you a sound foundation to operate your life from. And so, and because of that, and kind of that sense of direction and that kind of roadmap on this is the right way to live life, that has been proven statistically to society to be better. When people are serious about their religion, it has been proven that it's good for society, just because people are more organized, they're taking things more seriously, and they're focused on, typically on better things as opposed to worse things. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. Absolutely not. Like we mentioned at the beginning of this video, there is no infallible human. And then, strategic thinking, persistence. So you can kind of see these are some of the things. He was calm and composed. He was into health. So those are some of the things. Now, there are a few last takeaways that I want to go through real quick. So number one, adaptability in business. And so, there's a quote from, since I'm a Christian, I typically don't like to quote things that are from like evolutionists or anything like that, but there is a great quote and it holds true just across the board. It is not the strongest that survives. It's not the most intelligent that survives. It's not the fastest that survive, but it's the one who is most adaptable to change. And that's true, especially in business. We have to make moves. We have to pivot a lot of times. We have to be able to make changes. And that was one of the things that John Rockefeller is he was very adaptable. He excelled at adjusting to market changes. He was able to diversify into gasoline when kerosene demand fluctuated. And he was able to make several moves like that at a larger scale, even if it kind of went back on what he originally had thought and kind of believed in. He didn't have this sunk cost fallacy where he had, a sunk cost fallacy where he had invested all this time, energy, and resources. He didn't let that make him stubborn and just go through something if it was the wrong thing to do. If he realized he was doing the wrong thing, no matter how much time, effort, and energy he put into it, he would pivot. He would do it wisely, obviously, but he would pivot. He wouldn't be stuck in his ways. And, that's one of the things that, this is one of these main core principles that we all need to get good at, myself specifically. Adaptability. Sometimes markets change, times change, technology changes, government changes. And, we need to be able to be adaptable and agile and pivot. He was also very innovative, right? And creative. He embraced innovation, investing in pipeline technology to reduce dependence on railroads. So he got so frustrated at some point because he was so reliant upon the railroads that he created new technology to get his oil from point A to point B to get the railroads out of the equation. And and the reason why is because the railroads were bullying him, and this is just what businesses do, saying, upping the prices. The railroad kind of had their monopoly in a way. And so, and John Rockefeller had so many barrels that were getting transported by train. It was a tremendous amount of business for the railroads, but they weren't treating him very good, and who knows exactly what was happening. But anyways, so he said, okay, I'm going to put some pipes in the ground and I'm going to just pump my own oil from point A to point B. So he's very innovative and creative. Crisis management. He stayed calm during financial crises like the Panic of 1907, providing financial support to stabilize the economy. And I think that's the last one that I want to wrap up with. And it's one of my favorite points because, some people have mixed opinions and thoughts about money. Some people say money is the root of all evil. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil, right? So if you love money, if you worship money, like that is the root of all evil, right? Because you're willing to do anything for that. And so, that is wrong. And I agree with that in its entirety. But money is good, right? It's not good and it's not bad. It's just kind of neutral, actually. And so, but one of the good things that a person can do with money is they can help. And that was my last point here, is that during the crisis, the Panic of 1907, John Rockefeller was able to, because he had been working hard, because he had been saving his money, because he had been, going hard, like he was just working like crazy, building this massive big thing. And because he showed up every day and he didn't settle in his life, and because he just kept going and kept pushing, he was able to support the entire country in a time where we needed it desperately. And so, does this mean you're not successful if you don't become a billionaire? Absolutely not. Money has nothing to do with it. But in this case, John Rockefeller was able to use his resources, which happened to be money, and able to help an entire country. And so, what is it for you, right? Well, what is it that you're going to do to put yourself in a good situation, put your friends and family in a great situation, and potentially even your country, right? Or your church or whatever, right? So what are the things? And it doesn't have to be money. It can be skill sets. If you're really good at building websites, you could build a website for your church, right? As an example. If you're really good at doing marketing, you could help out your company, help them grow by doing some marketing campaigns and building those for them on the side while you do your other parts of the job. And who knows, maybe in the future you become a consultant. The other day we were talking about this book, When Mackenzie Comes to Town. They're consultants. You could consult other companies and help them create marketing campaigns that blow their businesses up. And so one door typically leads to another. And, so I think that's what I'll leave you with is, what is it that you've been put on this planet to do? What skills are you going to be doing? What things are you going to be doing in the background so that when that moment comes, you are able to be called upon and perform to help whoever it is that you want to help. Guys, my name's Austin. Thanks for watching this video. I read one business book per day, every day. And I make these videos because it helps me learn the information that I'm actually reading, right? It's really hard because I do a lot of my books via audiobook. And so, but I do this so that I can learn, and hopefully the things that I'm saying and I'm talking about are things that spark you to go out and do something great with your life as well. So thanks guys for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.